let's bring on Mr. Bronco. He's been covering the Broncos all preseason. He's been with ESPN for 30 years, celebrating his 30th anniversary over there at ESPN. Just awesome. And Steve Levy is joining us now. Steve, it's so cool to have you on, not just for your Broncos insight, but I feel like I grew up with you because you were on my TV on SportsCenter pretty much every night growing up. So it's so cool to have you on. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, so I'm old. I get it. I get it all the time. I grew up with you. That's great.
Is the interview over? Did I offend you already?
I'm ancient. No, it's good. I feel good. I feel young, and I'm really immature. So it works out.
Well, that's perfect. I would say we're pretty immature on this show, so you fit right in, Steve. And like I said, you've been covering the Broncos preseason for years now. You just wrapped up the third and final preseason game. You've got access and insight like no one else has been able to while covering the team. Are you shaking your head? In the new Sean Payton era, it changes a little bit. But what's one of the things that surprised you or that's really stuck out to you from being around the team a lot over this past month?
The access thing is interesting. Right?
Yeah.
So, and everybody who covers the Broncos, I think, is getting a taste of that. And really, you know what? If the team wins, then nobody's going to care, right? Nobody's going to care about the rules. You can do this and do that and wear the Gilligan hat on the sideline or TV news, all those kinds of things. If you win, nobody cares. It's not as fun or clever or cute if you keep losing. So, but I think that's probably the overriding factor that stood out to me. It feels different. We've been through, 5 head coaches since 2016 or something ridiculous like that. And, the Broncos are a flagship franchise for me. This is the Broncos are a national team, and it's a top 5 fan base in the entire NFL. And those are massive compliments, I think. And so to be down there, in terms of playoff droughts, second only to the Jets. I mean, that's highly insulting for as successful as the Broncos have been. So it does feel like everything is new. Obviously, the ownership in their second year, I think they have their footing. They obviously recognize that they need to spend some money, both on the field and in the stadium, and so that's why you go out and you get a Sean Payton and try to turn things around quickly. And obviously the fan experience was greatly improved. I know that scoreboard is really big because somehow it fit both my head and Ryan Harris's head in there. And I got a massive melon. So, but I think good things are happening, but it might not be a quick fix. And that's where, I don't want to be Debbie Downer guy, but that's where I would caution people. All this great optimism is great. Everybody has optimism at this point. The Cardinals are excited about their season too, right? And they're looking at the number 1 draft pick in next year's draft. So I think it takes some time. We have seen teams in the NFL go from 4th to 1st in their division, although I don't foresee that happening necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably fair. You were on the call last year for a couple of the Broncos primetime games. That became kind of a national narrative. Oh, no, the Broncos are on primetime again, and nobody really wants to see this. But I guess your second one was right after the 12-9 loss to the Colts the week before. When you see that game is coming up, the Broncos and Chargers, is it a little bit less exciting to see that it's that one after the way the season had started at that point?
When you're doing a game nationally, it's very different than doing the game for the Broncos, right? In the preseason, where you're really just speaking to Broncos country. I mean, that's kind of who we're gearing those broadcasts to. So, when you're doing the games nationally on ESPN, you want fun football, right? And fun football isn't necessarily isn't 13 points a game, isn't 16.9 points a game last season, the lowest scoring output in the NFL. So you want them to throw it around the yard. And so I think that's what the Broncos need. Like, everybody's talking the defense. Hey, the defense has been good. The defense has been there, in this league, in the NFL, it's really a matter. It could be 3 more points. Can you get to 21 or 22 from 17, right? That's less than a touchdown. I just did the math for you guys. No extra. But that's really the difference, right? The Broncos' record in those close games last year, I think they were 4-9 in games decided by 7 points or less. That makes all the difference in the world. Then you're a playoff team. So can the offense find a way? And so the games weren't that thrilling. We did the game in London last year also, and that wasn't overly thrilling. The Broncos won, and they came from behind late and had a rally and all that stuff. But throwing the football and that's where the loss of Jerry Jeudy, I think, really hurts this team. But that, again, that's the entertainment value, and that's for me nationally. Now, if you're a Broncos fan, you don't care if they win 10-7 every game. Who cares? Have a winning season, make the playoffs, see what happens there.
Yeah, I think that's great. Nice meeting you this week on the sideline. You and Ryan Harris. Your head doesn't look big in person, so you're all good. You're all good there. But we were having a discussion about the roster and talking about these tight ends. And I know you've watched them a lot, seen them in the preseason. Do the Broncos keep 4 tight ends, and does Albert O make the team? I think that's our biggest question right now.
Yeah, they can't keep 5 tight ends, can they? Right? I mean, it's hard. It's a numbers game. It's math. I've been mispronouncing Albert O's last name since Missouri. Okay. I feel like some of that's not always on me. I feel like he changed it for a while. A lot of these guys do that, but I was so impressed by him. How do you not root for the guy? He's in there, late fourth quarter, a fourth-year pro, a guy who was a draft pick. Some people with some egos could have been highly insulted, and Albert didn't play that way, or if he was insulted, he used it with anger and used it to his benefit. That one-handed catch was spectacular. Yeah. What a game he had. Easy guy to root for, but it does come down to the numbers crunch. And again, right, because now you have Burton, who's a fullback. If you didn't have a fullback, maybe you could keep an extra tight end, but the fullback, who say plays somewhat of a similar position there. So it's hard. And I'm thinking about Atkins, right? Like Atkins probably has made the team prior to that game. And then Albert shows out, and I asked Ryan Harris about this, and everybody's talking about, hey, maybe Albert played his way onto the team. Well, that means somebody else is not somebody else off the team, and maybe that's Nate Atkins. So I don't envy George Payton. This is a crazy, crazy time of year. And some of it, guys, as you know, is, hey, if the players are even in your own mind, which guy can we get back on the practice squad, right? Which guy in the organization? So some of that is a factor in this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steve, I think you might be the only national person to know Nate Atkins and Michael Burton in terms of the Broncos. So you're bringing it. We appreciate it. And just a very simple question, which probably determines the future of the Broncos this year and moving forward. Do you think Russell Wilson can work with Sean Payton in terms of working to get the team back to the playoffs and be that successful?
I do. I'm in Russell Wilson's camp, and strictly, really, I'm basing this off his entire career. That I'm going to go with last year was a blip. Last year was a blip. That is not the player he is. And I can't believe he could have another season resembling that. He has to more be the player he was for 10 years in Seattle. Prior to last season, everybody has him going to the Hall of Fame. Yeah. So this season, I think I opened the first preseason broadcast saying, he's got to be a favorite for Comeback Player of the Year. Now, you never want to win that award because that means you're bad. But after you've experienced that already, then you do want to win it. And so I think Russ is due to have a big bounce back year. I don't believe he is the player we saw last year. Again, I think that's a blip on the back of his football card. He's too good a player to have consecutive seasons like that. The issue is going to be, and that's where I think the Jeudy injury is just a killer. It's not all on Russ, just as it's not on every other NFL starting quarterback, and we sometimes make it out to be. Jeudy was the great separator, I think, stretch of the defense, allow the team to run, and without Jeudy, I think that'll hurt. And so then it becomes, all right, how long is Jeudy going to be out for? Does he miss a game? Does he miss 3 games? And those kinds of things. It's not all on Russ, but yet it kind of feels like it is. And I think Russ does have a bounce back season. Now I don't know what that means, by the way. Bounce back meaning he's much better. The team is much better. and they could still miss the playoffs.
Going back to some of that back of the roster stuff, you mentioned it's going to be really tough to beat George Payton because you got to decide with Albert O and Nate Atkins. You've got Alex Palshevsky at tackle. You've got J.L. Skinner, who is kind of a ways down the depth chart despite being a draft pick. Is this the way that it is for every team right now? And does it just feel worse for the Broncos to make these decisions because we're so close to the situation? Or is this kind of the general feeling around the league?
Yes, it just feels worse because you guys are too close to the situation. In every camp, I guarantee they love this guy, and everybody's got player X, the undrafted free agent who's too small, And now not all like Jaleel McLaughlin. I think he's the exception. He looks like he could really be special, but there's definitely a training camp darling in every camp, and there's probably 3 of them: one on offense, one on defense, and one on special teams. And if you're the third running back, you kind of got to play special teams, right? And so that's where you get back into the math of that, how many wide receivers you can keep. So no, I think every franchise is going through it, and it's a good problem to have. It speaks to the talent that you have on your roster, and if you can't keep a guy, some of the players, I think teams know right now, obviously with cut down day tomorrow, they know which players they'd like to waive or cut out, and they're trying to trade these guys, right? They're trying, hey, maybe I get a 6 or a 7 for this guy and build up some more draft capital. They know this player is not going to be on the team right now. George Payton's got a handful of guys he knows right now are not going to be on the Broncos, but he hasn't cut or released them yet because he's probably trying to trade 1 or 2.
All right, Steve, the Broncos' eyes are now set on regular season football. The Raiders are coming to Denver for the very first game. Josh Jacobs, unfortunately for the Broncos, is back with them. The Broncos are 0-7 against Josh Jacobs. Does that change in week 1, or does Josh Jacobs' domination over Denver just continue?
That's a weird one, right? Like, I get the Broncos losing to the Chiefs 15 times. I mean, I get that. But the Raiders, I don't understand that. So, listen, to me, this game is a coin flip, and it's kind of what we were just talking about. Are you guys too close to the Broncos? I guarantee you the Raiders, who I don't think have high expectations in the division or in the AFC altogether this year, they're looking at their schedule, and they're saying the same thing the Broncos are. Hey, you know what? We got to get off to a good start. And the Raiders are looking at the Broncos as a winnable game for the Raiders. Just like the Broncos are saying, hey, you know what? We got to get these first 2 games at home, right? So, to me, the opener is a coin flip game. And Jimmy Garoppolo's proven, right? When he's healthy, he wins. That guy wins football games when he can stay on the field. And I think that's a coin flip, last-second kick kind of game in the opener for the Broncos.
Does that make you nervous with Brett Maher, kicker for the Broncos, or are you confident in him if it's a last-second kick?
I think I'm okay. I want to give the guy a pass. The kicking game is that's craziness what those poor guys have to go through. And, Sean Payton's like, he's battling 31 other kickers, and there are 7 other battles going on out there. I thought Maher had a really good regular preseason. I think everybody goes back to the Cowboys in the wild card game and missing the 4 extra points. The first field goal last night, in the preseason finale there, like that just got in the upright. I was a little worried about that one because if you miss the first one in the final preseason game, that can snowball on you. So I was very happy for Maher, and I think he's going to be okay. But McManus, like you wonder about those things. The Niners are in the same Robbie Gould, the same deal. You don't want to pay your kicker $5 million. Because of salary cap issues, until you need to make a game-winning kick from 50 yards away outside, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Steve, final one for you. Do the Broncos make the playoffs this year?
That's really hard, guys.
It is hard.
You going to be Debbie Downer on us again?
Listen, I mean, you could be 10-7 and not make the playoffs, right? I mean, that's a real possibility. I think I have the Broncos at like 9-8 and probably missing out on the playoffs. Sorry, I got to be real. I got to keep it real. So what about you guys? You guys all have them in the playoffs? Come on, somebody.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you, Steve. I think I'm right around 9-8. But you mentioned the playoff drought that the Broncos are on. might be the longest in the NFL after this year if the Jets are able to do that. But they haven't had a winning record since 2016. So 9-8, while it's not the playoffs after this offseason, I think Broncos country would take a step back and say a 4-game improvement. If we do anything like that heading into the following year, then the Broncos are a playoff team. So Broncos country doesn't sign up for 9-8 right now, but I think at the end of the day, people would be satisfied. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think so too. And it's a work in progress. It's rare for a coach to come in and win, Super Bowl his first year, especially with how things have been going the last 2 years. So I give them time, a work in progress. Maybe not this year, but definitely next year with the way Sean Payton works. But I look for them to do have a winning season.
Well, there we go. Thank you so much, Steve, for joining us. It's awesome. We love you covering games, and we hope to see you out here in Denver for a couple more this year. Do you know that if you got any on the schedule?
I'm doing a bunch of ESPN radio games every Sunday in the NFL, kind of game of the week. And I was really hoping to get that Week 5 game against the Jets. That'd be a lot of fun. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I know ESPN Radio has the rights nationally, some Broncos games. So hoping to come out and see you guys during the season.
Well, we'd love that. Thanks so much for being on, Steve, and hopefully we can catch up later when you're in Denver. Thanks so much.
All right, be well, guys. Have a great season.